Hey guys, welcome to our reading lesson for today. Let's go ahead and get started by reading our learning target. I can compare and contrast the most important points from two texts on the same topic. So this word compare means to describe how two or more things are similar or alike. And then we have the opposite of that, which is contrast, to tell how two or more things are different. And the way that we compare and contrast text is we look for the most important points. The most important point is a detail, a fact, or an example that is a piece of information in the text. Now, in order to determine if a point is an important point or an unimportant point, we have to ask ourselves some questions. We have to decide if it is a fact or a point that we need in order to understand the main idea of the text. Remember, main idea is what it is mostly about. So if we need that point to understand what it's all about, then it is important. If it's there just to be an interesting fact and just to tell us some more information, but it's not what we need to understand the main idea, then that would be an unimportant fact or an unimportant point, okay? All right, so in order for us to meet this learning target, we need to decide which points are important and which points are unimportant. And then we need to determine how those points are alike and how they are different, okay? All right, so remember we're looking at two texts on the same topic. So today we're going to read two separate texts, and then we're going to answer some questions about the text, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and turn in our Ready Reading Journal to page 334. 334. The title of this article is Recycle That. And do you see where it says from Recycle That? So it's not the whole entire article. It's just a piece of the article that we need and that can help us when we're comparing this to another text. Okay? So I want us to go ahead and look. Here we have a couple of photographs. We have a photograph here with a caption and a photograph here with a caption. Let's go ahead and read these captions. These tables and chairs are made from recycled paper. Do you know what the word recycle means? It means to reuse it or to use it again. So these tables and chairs are made from recycled paper, paper that has been used again. And then we have a photograph over here on page 335. What animal is that? It's an elephant, isn't it? Elephant art made from plastic bottles. So in this photograph, somebody has recycled or reused plastic bottles and turned it into an animal. That's pretty cool, isn't it? All right, so in this article today, what do you think it is that you're going to learn about? We're going to learn about things that can be recycled or reused and turned into new objects, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and go through and read this text from Recycle That. When you're done, you may unpause the video to continue. All right, now let's go ahead and turn one page over to page 336. We have another text because remember we're comparing and contrasting two texts on the same topic. So this one is also going to be about what? Recycling. Yes. This one is titled Turning Trash into Treasure. Isn't that kind of what they did in Recycle That? They took our trash and they recycled it and turned it into something different. So in this text, you are going to read about turning trash into treasure. What do you notice about the illustrations around the text? What do you notice? Yeah, we can see that is in the dirt underground, right? Or in the soil underground. So I wonder what it is that we're going to be recycling when we're looking at the ground, okay? All right, so go ahead and I want you to read Turning Trash into Treasure. When you're done, you may unpause the video to continue. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to think about the answers to these questions because remember, we're trying to understand what these texts are about. So we have to know what it is that it's about in order to compare and contrast it, okay? All right, so here are our questions. What is recycling? What is recycling? This should be a right there question that you could put your finger on. All right, so what is recycling? It's to use something again in a new way. Where did we learn about the definition of recycling? Did we learn about that definition in Recycle That or in Turning Trash into Treasure? Recycle That. In paragraph number 6, it says, when something is recycled, all or part of it is used again. So recycled means that it is used again. That is giving that definition there. Okay. All right. The next question. What can be recycled? What can be recycled? A lot of things can be recycled, right? I'm looking and Turning Trash into Treasure, and I can see old newspapers, old cans, empty bottles, right? Those are all some things that can be recycled. And we even learned about 2 things that could be recycled just from looking at the photographs in Recycled That. Paper can be recycled, and then plastic bottles can be recycled, right? All right. What is the text mostly about? So what were these 2 texts mostly about? They were all about recycling as much as possible, right? It's important to recycle. And remember, recycle means to use it again, okay? So remember, when we're trying to decide if points are important or if points are unimportant, we have to decide if those points are needed in order for us to understand the main idea. If we don't need those points to understand the main idea, then they're just there as interesting fact, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to reread Recycle That, and we're going to reread Turning Trash into Treasure. If we come to a sentence or a point that is important for understanding that recycling is very important, we're going to mark that so you can underline it, put a star beside it, do whatever you need, because you're going to need those important facts when we go to compare and contrast these, okay? All right, so here is our task. Remember, our success criteria is to be able to decide which points are important and unimportant in a text. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through. It's an important fact if we need it to be able to understand the main idea. Remember, the main idea is recycling is important, okay? Are you ready to get started? Let's begin. All right, go ahead and take your helper finger and put it on the first word. Remember, we're going to underline or put a star beside or mark in our text some way to let us know which points are important to understanding our main idea. All right, finger on the first word in paragraph number 1. Ready, begin. Bottles, cans, mail, magazine, boxes, and bags. We throw out a lot of trash. Everything we throw away came from somewhere. The paper products we use are made from trees. Thousands and thousands of trees are cut down each day to make the paper we use. Fields and hills are dug up to get sand to make glass and metals to make cans. The plastic we use are made from oil pumped from deep inside the earth. Each time we take something from the earth, we change the earth. The ways we change it are not always good for us or for wild animals. So remember, the main idea of this text, what it is all about, is recycling is important. We need to recycle. So when we read these first 3 paragraphs here, what was an important point? A point that we needed to understand or that we needed to better understand the main idea. Do you see a point in one of these first 3 paragraphs? If you do, I want you to underline it. I underlined the first sentence in paragraph 3. Each time we take something from the earth, we change it, right? If we're taking from the earth and we're changing it, that's not really great. That's why it's important that we recycle. All right, let's go on to paragraph number 4. And where does all of our trash go? Most of it goes into land set aside just for trash. But we throw out so much trash that our landfills are filling up. Soon there won't be any more room. So what's an important point in paragraph 4 that lets us know we need to recycle? Yeah, we're throwing out so much trash that our landfills are filling up. And a landfill is a land that is set aside for trash. It told us that in this sentence before. All right, let's go on to paragraph number 5. By using and throwing away so many things, we have created a big problem. What can you do to help? Recycle. So we know that it is important to recycle. Paragraph number 6. When something is recycled, all or part of it is used again. Many towns and cities have special programs for recycling. Each home gets a special container for items to be recycled. All right, so let's think back to this paragraph number 6. In paragraph number 6, we're talking about things being recycled and that some cities have special programs. So think about which point in that paragraph would be important and which one would be unimportant. Which point do we need to understand that recycling is something we need to do? Yeah, that first sentence, when something is recycled, all or part of it is used again, is important. Now, it's really interesting that some cities have special programs set up, but that is not the most important thing to let us know that we need to recycle, okay? All right, paragraph number 7. Often, cans, bottles, and newspapers can be recycled. In some places, magazines and plastic bottles can be recycled too. Paragraph number 8. Can you see why it's smart to recycle? Things that would have been wasted can be made into something useful instead. Each time you recycle one can, bottle, or newspaper, you help the earth a little bit. So recycle that. It's easy. All right, so let's think back to those 3 paragraphs we just read, 7, 8, and 9. What was an important point in those paragraphs that we needed to be able to understand better why we should recycle? All right, so I'm seeing where it says that things that would have been wasted can be made into something useful instead, and you can help the earth a little bit. So when we recycle, we are helping the earth, even if it is just a little bit, okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to read Turning Trash into Treasure, and we're going to do that same thing. We're going to try to meet that success criteria of being able to decide which points are important and which points are unimportant. Remember, important points are needed for us to be able to understand the main idea of the text. If it is an unimportant fact or a point, that means that it is there, it's interesting, it's nice to know, but it's not going to help us better understand the main idea, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and begin reading Turning Trash into Treasure. Put your finger on paragraph number 1. Ready? Begin. When was the last time you threw away a banana peel, an apple core, a piece of paper? Maybe you could have recycled them instead. When we recycle things, we turn them into new things to use again. From old newspapers, we make new paper. From old cans and empty bottles, we make new ones. Recycling can keep our landfills from getting too full. If we aren't careful, we may run out of room. So let's think about paragraph number 2. What was an important point in there to let us know that recycling is important? Did it tell us what recycling was? That's important. When we recycle things, we turn them into new things to use again. Then it gave us some examples, didn't it? But I think that the last 2 sentences are important. Recycling can keep our landfills from getting too full. If we aren't careful, we may run out of room. So recycling can keep our landfills from getting too full. That's important for us to understand why we need to recycle. We don't want to run out of room in our landfill, so we need to recycle. So that's an important point. All right, let's go to paragraph number 3. Composting is another way to recycle. It is a great way to turn food and yard waste into good, rich soil. The soil helps grow new things. So what's an important idea in paragraph number 3 that can help support our main idea of needing to recycle? tells us one way that we can recycle, right? Composting is another way to recycle. So it's telling us that we could get rid of our old food scraps or things that we find in the yard like our grass clippings, and that can help our soil. That's another type of recycling. All right, paragraph number 4. To make compost, you need fruits and vegetable scraps. You will also need leaves, grass, and soil. Put all these things in a big wooden box, then add some water and stir. Finally, cover the box. Was there an important point in that paragraph, or was that there just to be interesting? Yeah, it was just there to be interesting. It doesn't add to the idea of why we need to recycle. Let's go to paragraph number 5. After a few weeks, everything in the compost box starts to rot and break down. The tiniest living things in nature help break them down. That's interesting, but is it important for us understanding why we should recycle? It's just interesting telling us about the compost and what happens, but it's not what we need to know in order to tell us to recycle. All right, paragraph number 6. After a few more weeks, everything will have turned into rich soil. People use compost in their gardens to help plants and flowers grow. What do you think about that paragraph? It's just interesting, okay? It does not support why we should recycle. Number 7, compost shows us how nature is a cycle. Things grow, then they die. Finally, they become soil and help new things grow. Do we need that to understand why we should recycle? You might say so, right? I think it's important to know that compost shows us how nature is a cycle, but it doesn't really prove why we should recycle. So I'll leave that up to you. If you want to say that's important, you can. If you want to say that it's unimportant, we'll keep moving. All right, paragraph number 8. By recycling things we no longer need, we create new things. We also take better care of our earth. All right, so what's an important idea in paragraph number 8? What do we need to know in order to tell us or explain why we should recycle? Yes, by recycling things we no longer need, we create new things and we take care of Earth. Okay? All right, guys, so I hope that us looking through and determining the important and the unimportant points are going to help you as you continue moving through and answering these questions. As you're answering these questions, it's going to help us meet that second part of our success criteria, which helps us meet our learning target to determine how important points in two texts are alike and different. Okay? All right, guys, we will go over these questions tomorrow, so make sure before you have continued to our next lesson tomorrow that you have completed the questions on the next couple of pages. Bye, guys.